Please note that there is a trigger warning for this episode. This episode has mentions of sexual violence. So this episode has been very long overdue. The article I had been working on and off for years now, but it was just such a topic that affects so many people deeply in so many different ways that I wanted to make sure that I was able to cover all the points and I didn't leave people feeling like their experiences didn't matter. So here we are. We need to talk about something that's deeply entrenched and has somehow become normalized in this martial arts combat sports space. It is so enraging how often people that are in positions of power, so gym owners, coaches, people who have influence over others. So within a gym setting, it might be like experienced veteran fighters that have been there for a long time, gym members that have been there for a long time. Within a community, it could be people like influencers and fighters of all levels, coaches, promoters, So these are examples of people in power, and a lot of these people often protect abusers instead of holding them accountable. Whether we're talking about like verbal microaggressions to outright violence, these incidents are far too common in combat sports. When victims of sexual assault turn to gym owners or the coaches who are in charge for safety or support, they're often met with indifference or worse, loyalty to the abusers. It's clear that in many cases, connections or reputations are valued over the safety and dignity of the students. When a high-profile case hits the surface, the outrage is swift, but very temporary. We often see like a flurry of social media posts expressing shock, solidarity with the victims. Behind the closed doors, the cycle continues. Predators remain in positions of authority, gym owners protect their reputations, and members stay silent out of fear, loyalty, indifference with phrases like, but that has nothing to do with me. Combat sports and martial arts gyms are often advertised as spaces of empowerment, respect, and community. The promise is clear. Join us and you'll learn how to defend yourself, build confidence, and be part of something bigger than yourself. But the reality is there's a massive disconnect between these claims and the lived experiences of many who train there. Some gyms fall devastatingly short of these values that they claim to uphold. Women and marginalized individuals are harassed, belittled, and sometimes outright assaulted by those who are supposed to be their mentors and teammates. How can we talk about empowerment when victims are routinely silenced and shamed into hiding their trauma? How can we preach respect when those in power dismiss allegations, excuse predatory behavior, and allow abusers to keep their positions without consequence? This isn't just hypocrisy, it's betrayal. The mental toll on victims is profound. It can lead to anxiety, depression, PTSD, a loss of trust in the very spaces that are supposed to be empowering and safe. This kind of environment doesn't just erode individual well-being, it also undermines the gym's overall health. If the moral code isn't enough to drive change for gym owners, then they should consider this. A gym's financial stability depends on creating supportive environments. Protecting abusers isn't just a betrayal of your values, it's also bad for business. Unless you want the business to be made up solely of people who are known for protecting abusers. Sexual harassment and abuse in combat sports does not exist in a vacuum, unfortunately. They're rooted deeply in toxic gender dynamics and power imbalances. The overwhelmingly male-dominated nature of these spaces often results in a culture where misogyny is normalized and those who hold power exploit it. If we want to take one glaring example is what happened with DJ Jackson. He's a well-known figure in the Brazilian jiu-jitsu community, and he pled guilty to third-degree sexual assault of a 16-year-old years ago. Despite this, he continues to find employment within the BJJ community. He has been living in Thailand for a few years now, but it seems like when he does lose his jobs at certain gyms, it's always because he's stealing money from customers, allegedly, and his history as an abuser apparently doesn't make it's not much of a factor. This doesn't just exist in high-profile cases. In many gyms, when a member or instructor is accused of harassment or assault, the response is often dismissive. How many times do you hear people saying, "That's messed up, but he's my boy"? That's a real statement made by a head coach after a gym member reported being raped by an instructor. One of the most insidious aspects of sexual harassment and assault is the silence that surrounds it. Survivors may choose to stay quiet, not because they want to feel like they have no other choice, but they fear backlash, judgment, or not being believed. Plus, they are part of this community that emphasizes loyalty and toughness. So speaking out can feel like breaking this kind of unspoken code. Even when survivors do speak up, they're often met with responses that range from apathy to outright hostility. Some gym owners, coaches, and fellow members choose to side with the accused, either out of loyalty, disbelief, or the misguided idea that keeping things quiet is best for the gym's reputation. This culture of silence isn't just harmful, it's dangerous. It creates an environment where predators are emboldened, knowing that the odds of facing any real consequences and being unemployed are very slim. But accountability isn't optional, it's a responsibility. It's natural to feel uncomfortable when these issues are brought up, especially when someone tells you about their own experiences that don't match up with what you thought of that person. But that discomfort shouldn't be directed at the survivors who speak out or the people who are highlighting the problem. That discomfort needs to be aimed squarely at the actions and the culture that allows this kind of behavior to continue. Discomfort is not a sign of retreat. It's a call to action. It should motivate you and other people to confront harmful behaviors and question why these issues continue to persist. And hopefully you guys can also start pushing for change. Be uncomfortable with the abusers, with the systems that protect them, and with any complacency that allows this behavior to thrive. Recognize that standing with survivors and addressing these uncomfortable truths is the only way to create the respectful, empowering environments that combat sports promise but often fail to deliver. We all have a role to play in breaking this cycle. Combat sports gyms aren't just places where people train, they're communities. And like any community, they're shaped by the actions and inactions of their members. Gym owners and coaches need to step up. That means creating clear, consistent policies around sexual harassment and assault and making sure everyone, from the newest member to the most experienced coach, understands them. It's about having protocols in place for reporting misconduct and ensuring that these reports are taken seriously, investigated thoroughly, and acted upon swiftly. For gym members, the responsibility is just as real. Don't wait for someone else to take action. If you see something inappropriate, whether it's a sexist comment, an uncomfortable touch, or outright harassment, don't ignore it. It doesn't matter if it seems minor to you or if you think someone else will handle it. Speak up. Check in with the person affected. Call out the behavior when it happens. Again, being silent is complicity. It's also crucial to educate yourself and the people around you about the signs of predatory behavior. Pay attention to red flags, like coaches who seem to have a pattern of isolating or singling out certain members, making overly personal comments, and pushing boundaries under the guise of training. Now, change doesn't happen overnight, but there are concrete steps that we can all start to take. Here are some possible solutions that I have come up with. Number 1, implement clear policies and training. Gyms need explicit policies against sexual harassment and assault. And this isn't like a one-time checklist. It has to be an ongoing commitment to making a safe environment. Number 2, create a safe reporting system. Establish confidential reporting mechanisms and make it clear that retaliation against those who report misconduct will not be tolerated. Number 3, foster a culture of accountability. Gym owners and coaches must take all reports seriously and enforce consequences consistently, no matter who the perpetrator is. Number 4, encourage open conversations. Normalize conversations about respect, boundaries, and consent so they're part of the culture of your gym all the time. Number 5, no more second chances for abusers. People with a history of sexual misconduct or repeated same kind of stories from different people, they should not be in positions of authority, period. Number 6, be a protective ally, not a passive observer. Bystander intervention training equips gym members with the tools to recognize, respond to, and prevent harassment before it escalates. Number 7, take legal action. Sexual assault is a crime and it should be treated as such. So the next time that you hear about something happening, don't just share the outrage, but be part of the change. It's so easy to express shock when these stories come to surface, but if you really want these things to change so you don't keep hearing these stories, it requires more than posting something online saying that you're angry and this person should be this and that. You need to challenge the narrative, break silence, and hold your fellow gym members, your coaches, people accountable. We need to demand better from our gyms, better from our coaches, and better from ourselves. Together, we can ensure that combat sports truly become a place of empowerment, respect, and safety for everyone involved. It's time to make this change happen. It's not today, not next week, but now. So I was thinking about some ways where we can kind of concretely take steps to make this happen. So as I was thinking about this, I was like, maybe what if I get gyms to take a pledge saying that they will publish policies, one, and do their best, because change doesn't happen overnight. And then even if it did happen overnight, they're not bound to be perfect from the get-go. And even if it is perfect for one gym, it might not be perfect for another gym. So, an ongoing commitment to fine-tune and change these policies as time passes. So with these two ideas, I just thought, okay, why not message a few gyms that I already know that actively hold these values, but just lack a published policy. So I reached out to them and I was just like, hey, I would love to start a directory of gyms who take this pledge. Would you like to be included on it? And every single one of those gyms that I had reached out to, I think initially I reached out to 5 gyms. Within an hour, they got back to me. It was like, no problem. We would love to be part of it. Didn't question it. Didn't leave me on red. If you would like the gym that you train at or the gym that you own to be added to this directory, this is how you can do it. On your gym's website, there needs to be a dedicated page where it clearly displays the pledge that I have made. And if you would like to read the pledge, it's on muay-ing.com. So the page needs to clearly display the pledge and your gym's policies. The pledge part, the gyms can copy and paste it. And as for the policies, the gyms can write one from scratch, or they can ask me for a draft that they can edit to suit their gym better. Step 2, and if the gym has created the dedicated page on the website with the pledge, with the policies, then they can submit their gym to be included in the directory that I have made. And the directory is on my website. It's called Combat Sports Gyms with Clear Sexual Misconduct Policies. And if you go on the Muay website and you look at the menu and you see directory, click on it and you will see it. At the time of recording, we have 6 gyms listed. I'm currently waiting on the link from 3 more gyms and a few other gyms that had emailed me, but I haven't heard back from them yet. So thank you to those gyms who have made it a priority to get this done. Once the page with the pledge and the policies is live, they just need to email me, muayingac@gmail.com, to be considered for inclusion in the directory. So basically, I will look at their page, make sure that everything checks out, and I will let the gym know if they are added to the directory or not. Now, on this directory, it's not just gyms that have taken a pledge and published the policies. Hopefully not, but there is a section on the page that says gyms that have been removed from the above list. So it would be the gyms that have adopted the pledge and the policies, but unfortunately, again, hopefully not. Members are contacting me with stories saying this and that about the gym, about one of the instructors. And if the gym doesn't remedy these issues from gym members, then unfortunately they will have to be off the list because it's in violation of the pledge. So yeah, again, all this is on Muay, the website. So that's muay-ing.com. If you need this in writing, just go to the menu where it says directory and you'll see how to add a gym to this directory. And this podcast recording is an extension of the article I wrote. Now, the article is much more in-depth than this podcast episode, not for any reason, just because a lot of these ideas that I'm trying to communicate were just easier for me to write. There are some ideas that are just easier for me to talk about in a podcast, like my previous episode, but there are other things where it's like, it just needs to be written down. So I do believe that we all have a role to take. And also thank you to all the people who DM'd the Muay Instagram page about their own experiences with sexual assault, sexual harassment at the gyms that they were training at. Unfortunately, some of these people have just given up on martial arts spaces altogether because it was just far too traumatic for them to step into another space and risk having it happen all over again, which is another reason why I wanted to create this directory, because if people are prioritizing safe spaces where they don't have to worry about this kind of stuff, then this directory could be a starting off place for them to find a new place to train. Thank you for listening. Hopefully this episode, which I had made for literally everyone in the community, in the martial arts, combat sports community, not just Muay Thai, dare I even say maybe even just athletics in general. Hopefully you have taken something away from this at some level, and you are inspired to be a little bit more proactive in making these spaces safer. This isn't the only change that needs to be made in these kind of spaces. There are a lot of other changes that need to be made, but we got to start somewhere. And if you are trying to better these spaces with something else, please let me know. I'd love to support whatever it is that you are doing. I think if we all just pitch in a little bit, we can really make some really big noticeable differences. Now, as a side note, there have been a few people who have messaged me saying like, oh, but what if like someone is falsely accused? Unfortunately, that does happen. And I have never said at any point to just blindly believe any kind of accusation and take it as truth. But that also is a very delicate factor because some people don't have quote unquote hard proof. So each gym, as part of their policies, they need to think of a way to address this. In my opinion, an investigation, due diligence should always be done on the gym's part regarding this. So again, this is another reason why having these clear published policies are very useful for everyone, because if and when these things do happen, then it's very clear as to what the next steps are. And it's not just everyone scrambling around like, oh, do I have a place to train? Oh, do I have to fire this instructor? Oh, what do I do now? This is a clear framework for everyone involved. And hopefully, if you do own a gym, you can see the value in this. One of my friends who owns a gym, he himself had some legal issues in the past that he can speak about. So we were talking about that as to how we could implement certain, I guess, gray area situations into this policy. And obviously this is something that gyms will have to see if they want to integrate into their own policies. And he eventually decided that if there is a legal case going on, that the lawyer needs to write a letter to the gym. Okay, there's so much more I feel like that could be said about this. But again, please read the article that's on muay-shooting.com on this topic. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, and thank you for listening.